35mm is my favorite focal length, but sometimes 35mm is just a little bit too tight. Most of the time the next best option is a 24mm lens, but sometimes 24mm can be a little bit too wide. So what do you do? That's exactly when a 28mm lens is exactly what you need. But there's not very many 28mm lenses available for Sony E-mount cameras. For a long time, your only option for a 28mm lens that has autofocus was the Sony 28mm f2, which has been around for almost 10 years now. And while that's not a bad lens, it does only have an f2 aperture. Luckily, Viltrox does make a 28mm 1.8 for Sony cameras, and I was fortunate enough for them to send me one so I can test it out. So we're going to go out and shoot with this lens on my Sony A7CR and really put this lens to the test when paired with a 61 megapixel sensor. While I'm shooting here, I'm going to take a couple of the same photos at f1.8 and f1.4 just to compare the sharpness and see how it performs. Also the vignetting, especially since we got some nice blue skies. We'll kind of see how it does. Back in the day when I used to mainly shoot portraits, I would come here a lot to this abandoned gas station and shoot. But it's a pretty cool spot. I love turning these normally boring places into interesting photos and playing with the light. The sun is about to set behind a building over there, so I think I'm about done shooting. So I'm gonna head back to the studio and we're gonna talk about the 28mm lens that I've been shooting with for the past couple weeks. So I've been shooting photos with this lens for the past couple weeks now, and all of the videos you've seen here in my studio were shot on this lens as well. And so far, everything I have to say about this lens are good things. The sharpness holds up surprisingly well even on the A7CR, so if you have just about any other Sony camera body, I don't think you'll be disappointed in the image quality. The vignette is pretty noticeable at f1.8, but as you stop down, it becomes less and less noticeable. But as someone who tends to edit their photos a little bit more dark and moody, I'm kind of okay with the vignette. The size and weight are not too bad. The lens feels very solid. It does not feel cheap at all. It comes in at 366 grams, and the size is pretty much what you would expect compared to other Sony lenses. It's a little bit bigger than the 35mm 1.8 and about the same size as the 20mm 1.8. So it feels pretty good even on the A7C. The aperture ring is non-clickable, which I was kind of disappointed in at first, but it's actually pretty tough to turn, so you don't have to worry about accidentally changing your aperture. But this is my first time using a 28mm lens and a Viltrox lens ever, and overall I'm pretty happy with the results. So with a price tag of $379 USD, I think this lens is definitely worth it. And even if it cost more than that, I still think this lens would be worth it. I'm gonna throw some more photos up on the screen that I've shot with this lens, and then I will give you my final thoughts. As I mentioned at the beginning of this video, I think this lens is perfect if you're just looking for something maybe a little bit wider than a 35mm lens. There's a lot of third-party lenses that feel cheap, and you can tell corners were cut to make these lenses cheaper. But with this lens, it doesn't really feel like anything is being sacrificed. As long as you don't go in expecting a G Master quality lens, I think you're fine. Which I think is good because there's very few options if you're looking for a solid 28mm lens with autofocus. I had a few instances at the gas station where the autofocus hunted just a little bit, but otherwise it feels very snappy and fast for the most part. And for video, I don't have any complaints. It never hunted or lost focus when filming talking head clips with my FX3. With that said, I like to go into my reviews completely unbiased, and I did not look up any other reviews for this lens to see what others are saying, and Viltrox did not pay me or approve of this video before it going up. But yeah, honestly, I'm kind of surprised by just how much I love this lens. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please like the video and subscribe to help support me so I can continue growing and reaching a larger audience. And I hope I can inspire you guys to get out and take more photos. Go out and shoot.